What up guys, Cole here, and if you've ever had a prospect tell you on the phone that it's too much money, it's too expensive, I can't afford it, or really any other reason to where they haven't moved forward on the sales call because of money and because of the financial objection, then this is going to be the video for you. Because what we're going to cover is a language pattern, and it's really a framework that not only I have used to beat the financial objection and close millions of sales despite that objection, but at the same time, I've taught this to my entire sales team. It crushes for them. I've taught this to 200 plus of our clients. I've seen this one language pattern literally turn around the performance of entire sales teams. So it is killer, and it will help you really just defeat financial objections for good. So we'll flip over to my screen here, and you'll see first we're gonna go over just kind of an overview of the sales process at a 30,000 foot view, just so you can see where we are. And then we're gonna go over objection handling principles at a high level, because part of handling the financial objection really well is just understanding how it kind of fits into the bigger picture of objection handling itself. And then we'll get into the juicy, exactly what you say when they say, I don't have the money, it's too expensive, I can't afford it, so on and so forth. So I'm gonna be kind of going through this Google Doc during this training, and we're gonna go through some scripting here, as you can see. If you guys want this, comment your phone number below this video, okay? Comment your phone number below this video now. And what we'll do is my assistant will actually text this Google Doc to you, okay? We'll probably get it to you within 24 to 48 hours from you seeing this video and you commenting. So if you want this and the other resources, comment your phone number below. We'll text it to you. We'll also text you, if you want it, access to our 7-Figure Selling Secrets sales course, which is 30 plus hours of content on stuff just like this, financial objections, uncertainty-based objections, how to handle I need to think about it, spouse partner, the entire sales process as a whole, building sales teams. So if you want this document and that course, comment your phone number below, we'll get that to you. Now, step one, let's go over where we're at in the sales process. So I could talk for 30, 40 minutes on this, but we're just gonna go through this really quickly here just so you can see the different phases of the sales process and where what we're doing, which is objection handling, where that fits in. So in the sales process, there's a couple phases. Introduction, which is where you start the call, set the frame. Information gatherings, where you're asking the questions. Transitions, where you're going from question asking to pitching them in a very low resistance way and in a way that really kind of tees up the pitch for success. Then there's the pitch, which is essentially just you explaining what you do on the phone in a very compelling way. Then there's the committing phase, which is really tying down on the process. And then there's objections, okay? What we're focusing on is just the objections. So a lot of this, getting this to work is gonna be predicated on you doing all of this other stuff right, okay? So obviously if you wanna learn this, we have programs and stuff, but I'm not gonna hold anything back in terms of how to handle financial, but some of this stuff won't work if you totally just botched all of this other stuff, okay guys? So I just wanna make sure I'm making that clear that you have to do everything right for objection handling to work, okay? Otherwise, you're just trying to treat symptoms opposed to treating the root cause. So anyways, we're down here in objections, and as you can see, there's 3 types of objections. There's uncertainty-based, spouse and partner, and finances, okay? Now finances are pretty simple. I can't afford it, it's too much. I need to move around funds, whatever it is, right? Anything that's keeping them from moving forward because of money. Now, spouse and partner is, I need to talk to my spouse, I need to talk to my business owner. It's really anybody that they need to talk to, an outside authority that's keeping them from moving forward now. This is the big one here, guys, uncertainty-based objections, okay? So uncertainty-based objections is anything that's keeping them from thinking that this is the right thing and now is the right time. Okay, I'll repeat that. Anything that's keeping them from believing that this is the right thing and now is the right time, money aside, okay? So what's key is that they're certain that whatever you gave them here, the pitch, that is the right thing and this is the right time, money aside, okay? Now, the reason that's so important is you can't handle financial objections or spouse objections unless they're totally bought in on the process. Okay, and you'll see how we root this out later in this training, but you have to understand this, because a lot of people, what happens is the prospect will say, well, I can't afford it, it's too much, it's too expensive, whatever, and they go right for trying to handle that objection without making sure that the prospect is certain that this is the right thing, now is the right time, or in other words, rooting out these uncertainty-based objections. And to give you an example of what an uncertainty-based objection is, it's things like, I need to think about it. I need to see some case studies. I need to see a proposal. I need to see a written agreement. I need to talk to one of your clients. I need to do some research. I've been burned before. All of that stuff is stuff that's keeping them from being 100% certain that this is the right thing, now's the right time. So we always want to get that first. And if you see this diagram here, what we do is essentially we drop the investment and then we paste the first objection and tie down on the certainty that this is the right thing, now's the right time. We get out, we root out any uncertainty-based objections first, isolate those, handle those, then we go to financial or spouse partner depending on what's coming up. Okay, now I'm giving you a lot of theory here, not like real practical application. We're gonna get into the scripting in just a second, but the reason I have to tell you this is because if you don't understand this and you just use this scripting and go right for financial objections, opposed to knowing I need to clear out any uncertainty-based objections before I get there, you're gonna be screwed and this is not going to work because you're falling for a smoke screen, okay? So with that out of the way, let's get into the actual scripting. And you'll see how I do this and I paste the first objection and root out the uncertainty before going to finances in just a second. So let's get into the scripting. Again, where we're starting is the investment drop, right? So we've done all this other stuff and we're literally at this point, if you see on the screen right here, we're at this point. We just dropped the investment, okay? So we say, let's just say our offer is 12K, okay? So we say the investment is just 12K, and then silence, shut up. Okay, that's really, really big. Don't say, you know, the investment's 12K, and then you just start going on a long rant, and you start talking, just silence, shut up. Now, one thing that is really important, and we could talk about this in another video if you guys are interested, is we don't do any sort of fast action discounts, like, hey, it's 20K, but it's 12K today. We don't do any of that. We also don't do any, we don't give payment plans up front, okay? So we also don't say, you know, hey, it's 12K, but if you pay in full, it's 10K, so it's either 2 payments of 6 or 1 payment of 10. We don't do that at all, and you'll see why later in just a second, but essentially, that creates too much friction for buying, okay? Now, can something like that work? Sure, all right? I used to do that all the time back in the day. It works, but I'm trying to teach you a better method that I've learned after doing literally thousands of calls, okay? And this is way better. So we can go in more on that later, but you'll see kind of why it's important that you just state the price just like that. It's just 12K. Now, let's say the prospect says, that's too expensive. I don't have the money. I can't afford it. Oh man, Cole, like, you know, that sounds good, man. I just don't know if I can afford that right now. Okay? You're gonna say as a salesperson, no problem. Now, just to stay organized on my end, when you say you can't afford it, are you more in a should I do this place to where you're not even 100% certain this is really what you want to do, or kind of more in a how can I do this place to where you're 100% certain that you want to do this? It's just a matter of making it work financially, okay? And then the prospect says, no, I really want to do it. I just don't know if I can afford that amount. I mean, that's like almost as much as a new car, okay? So let's pause here. We drop the investment. They give the objection. Now, this is what is that part I was telling you guys about where we paste the first objection. Because what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to really clarify and see, is this a true financial objection? Or is this a uncertainty-based objection that they're just saying, you know, it's too expensive? Because a lot of times it's easier for the prospect to say, oh, dude, you know, I can't afford it, opposed to, hey, dude, I don't believe you. You know, hey, dude, I don't think it's gonna work. You know, they don't wanna offend you and make you mad, okay? Nobody likes a mad salesperson. So, they sometimes they don't, you know, it's like a white lie, right? They give up, we call it a smoke screen. So we wanna make sure and we wanna root out that there's no uncertainty-based objections. There's nothing that's keeping them from being less than 100% certain that this is the right thing, now is the right time, okay? So we say, they say the objection. Now let's break down this language. We say, no problem, okay? That's huge. I've learned that from some of my mentors. I mean, I say no problem constantly when I get objections and resistance because it diffuses pressure. Because a lot of times what they're used to when they get an objection is they're kind of on their guard because they're used to being like, oh, well, you know, what do you mean you can't afford it, right? You can't afford not to do this. You know, they're ready for that rebuttal. And that no problem is like, whew, it diffuses a lot of pressure. And then we say now. So we're bringing back to the present moment. Now, just to stay organized on my end, which is the reason why we're asking the question, when you say you can't afford it, are you more, and then I basically say a should I do this place, or a how can I do this place? So another thing is too, you'll see me do this a lot during objection handling. During objection handling, they get very kind of like lizard brain, which, long story short, that means very like fight or flight. And it's hard for them to essentially, it's hard for them to answer open-ended questions and think creatively and critically, because that part of their brain is shut off. They're very fight or flight. So what you gotta get in the habit of doing in your objection handling is, are you this or are you this? You know? You gotta give them very binary options. So I love this one. There's multiple different ones of like this pacing the first objection language pattern that I use. This is a really, really good one. And it's, are you more in a should I do this place or a how can I do this place? In other words, I'm saying, are you not even 100% certain that this is really the path for you? Or like, do you really freaking wanna do this, but it just finance is getting in the way, okay? Now, in this example scripting here, he's saying, no, I really wanna do it, I just can't afford it, okay? Now, what you wanna do in this response is you wanna listen for anything less than that 100% certain F yes, okay? Because if they give you, yeah, I mean, I think it sounds good, that's not certainty, right? But if they're like, no, yes, like I need to do this, I just gotta figure out how to make it work, that's a financial objection, okay? So you're looking for that certain downward, faster cadence tonality, not, yeah, I mean, no, I mean, I wanna do it, that's not certainty, okay? And I'll cut them off and be like, okay, let's just be honest. Like, it doesn't sound like you're 100% certain that this is really what you feel like you need to do. And then we handle the uncertainty-based objection, different training. But what I'm really trying to see here is it is a true financial objection. So I'm looking for tonality and language here. So let's say, no, he's like, no, I really want to do it. You know, I just don't know if I can afford that amount. Salesperson, gotcha. So if I'm hearing you correctly, money aside, you're 100% in, okay? This is a killer language pattern. Now, why do I do this? So I just isolated that it's a true financial objection, and he confirmed it here, if you can see on the screen. And then now, what I'm doing is what's called a double tie down. So I said, okay, great, so it's just the money, gotcha. So if I'm hearing you correctly, money aside, you're 100% in. And really what I'm saying is, you're 100% in, then again, this is the right thing, now's the right time. There's no uncertainty-based objections, it's really just the money. And that language of 100% in is very strong. And people are afraid to use something like that because they're like, well, you know, they feel like it might be putting their prospect into a box. And technically it kind of is. But I use it because I want them to tell me that they're not 100% in. Because if they're not, it doesn't matter how I handle the financial objection, there's uncertainty, so they're not gonna buy anyways. I need to handle the uncertainty before I get into the logistics, which is essentially what we're doing here. But most times, if the call's done correctly and it's a true financial objection, they're gonna say, oh no, I mean, like I'm 100% in, like I really wanna do this. It's just, I gotta figure out how to make this work. So in this case, he says yes. And again, you're looking for a tonality here, right? If they say, I think so, no. Okay, and I'll cut them off. And usually, and I know like a lot of people in sales don't teach cutting people off, but in a situation like that, when you jump in and cut them off and call them out on their tonality there, it's like, you know, kind of playful, hey, it doesn't sound like you're 100% like certain here. That little bit of mind reading builds massive trust, and you'll have leadership for the rest of the objection handling phase. And that it'll start to kind of, any sort of like smoke screens or not being honest with you, they'll start to like tell you exactly what's on their mind after you do that. So little aside. Now, moving on here. So they say yes. So let's say you get the double tie down. Then salesperson says, gotcha. Well, look, most of my clients do the investment up front, but for certain clients in situations where they really want to do it, it's just the money, we break it up. So given you're 100% in, and it's really just a way we can make this work financially, are you open to exploring the possibility of that? Right? So what we're doing right here is we're getting permission. Permission to go into payment plans. This is why we didn't give payment plans in the beginning, and you'll see why in a second, okay? So prospect says, sure, okay, yeah, I'm definitely down to look at payment plans. Like, what does that even look like? And the prospect doesn't know, if it's 12K, the prospect doesn't know if you do financing for a year, if you break it into 2 payments. I mean, they don't know anything. So, this is very kind of vague language. And so, yeah, they're gonna be like, okay, well, what does this look like? What's good here is now you see how we're leading the conversation. Where most people suck at objection handling is they let it get to a point where the prospect has all the information and they're like, hey, this sounds great. Is this the number to reach you at? That's what we don't want to hear. So I want to lead, okay? You'll see I lead the entire way. And a lot of people, what's funny is, when you go back to the sales process, they lead in the entire process and then they drop the price and they stop leading. It's like, okay, well, you just you got to the 1 yard line, brother, and you fumbled. So we don't want to do that. We keep leading. Prospect says, sure, what's it look like? You say, well, it depends. Everything is really all customized and predicated on what you need. So are you open to having an honest conversation financially, getting everything out on the table so we can see if there's a possibility of doing this now, or at the very least, we can create a game plan to work towards in the future, okay? So now, he's saying, what do payment plans look like? I'm saying it's all customized, and essentially, we have to talk about where you're at financially and what your financial resources are so that I know what the best payment financing option is for you. So this is basically, I'm getting what I want here, because what I want is to know what is his resources. Cash on hand, credit, cash flow, etc. Okay? But I'm framing, I'm not saying, hey dude, can you tell me your resources? I'm framing him giving his resources to me, that information, I'm framing that in his best interest or her best interest, okay? And I'm doing that in a way where I'm also, I'm asking for permission here. I'm saying, are you open to exploring the possibility of that? The other thing I'm doing here, this is very, very subtle. If you can see on my screen, I'm highlighting it. I say, so we can see if there's a possibility of doing this now, or at the very least, we can create a game plan to work towards in the future. This is something I do in sales all the time. It's very like, I'm good if we do this now, that's great. If we don't do this now, that's great too. I just want to know what the best route is for you. Okay, that's the very preeminent moral authority type of frame. And so we're staying very, very kind of neutral here. All right, and then that way, because we also don't want them to think if they give us how much money's in their bank account, that we're gonna high pressure close them. So it's kind of removing the risk of them giving us that information. So the prospect says, sure. All right, so to recap, we said, hey, it depends. And we gotta get your finances. Do we have permission to do that? And we're staying neutral, right? We're getting permission here and we're framing it in their own best interest. They say, sure. Okay, great. So in the next 30 days, how much cash flow do you have coming in total? Let's say he says 5K. And how much do you have left over that after expenses, after paying the bills, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? He says 3K. 3K left over expenses, all right? Then we say, gotcha, cool. And what's your cash on hand exactly right now? And the prospect responds, okay, is that checking or is that savings? Okay, cool. And what's in the checking? Gotcha. And that's the exact number you have available? Perfect. And in terms of credit, not saying we have to use it, but just so we know what's available in kind of the state of the union here, how many cars do you have currently? What's the availability? How much of that is used right now? So this part I always get resistance on. I've taught this to literally, I've probably taught this to 500 people. And every single time I get, well, my market, I teach, spiritual entrepreneurs who are very heart-centered and this type of stuff, they're not going to go for it. Well, I've sold many of that market, and I will tell you firsthand they do. I also tell you I've worked with a individual who serves that market, who learned this language pattern and went from 15K a month to 100K a month in 30 days. So it does work. I've never found a situation where you have some sort of market issue where this doesn't work. Now, with what happens here is we're getting their cash on hand, their credit, their financial resources, etc. A lot of people have just money blocks, and so if this doesn't work, it's usually because of something that's coming up for you that's making you feel uncomfortable asking for this information. And because you feel uncomfortable asking it, they're not going to feel comfortable giving it to you. Whereas me, I just ask for it, because I truly believe that if there's a way I can make this work for the person, then, and they really want to do it, it's just like it's a win for everybody. It's going to change this person's life, right? So I don't have any issues asking for this, and I've really never had a prospect have issues giving it to me. Now keep in mind, we've already gotten them bought in on the process. We spent an hour with them on the call, maybe not that long, but let's say 30 minutes to 40 minutes on the call with them to this point. They really want to do it, it's just the money. And they've told you that like 3 or 4 times now, okay? That they really want to do it, it's gonna change their life, it's just the money. So if they truly believe that this is gonna be a life-changing product or service, and there's a maybe, but they can't do it, but there's maybe a way we can finance it out to make it work, well, you bet your butt they're going to give you their cash on hand, credit, etc., so they can see if there's a way we can make this deal happen. So if people are truly bought in that this is the right thing, now's the right time, then they'll give you this information every single time. Now, if they get resistant here, or if they give you like, oh, I don't have any money, right? If they don't give you an exact number, like if they tell you they have, it's like, oh, dude, I got 12K in cash right now, right? I know that's exact because 12K is kind of like a random number, right? But if they're like, I've had people that, oh, $500. Okay, I know they're lying, right? Now, what if they do lie at this point? Well, essentially, now you know it's not a financial objection. It was a smokescreen for uncertainty. And a lot of times if they do say, you might get some resistance because you're a salesperson and they don't want to give you their exact, money in their checking account. But what I usually tell them is I just confirm, look, I'm not asking how much you can spend right now. I'm just asking what you have available so we can see if we can make this work. And regardless if it, a possibility now or later on, at the very least, I can leave you with a game plan to work towards in the future. So I'm kind of just reminding them, look, I'm not saying, hey dude, what can you spend right now? Because that is a little bit invasive. I'm just saying, I need to know what you have available so we can see what's best. And usually that's never an issue there. If you do run into more resistance, they were never bought into this in the first place, and it was something with your sales process or you missed an uncertainty-based objection. So anyways, you're gonna get essentially their cash flow, cash on hand, and credit. One other thing too, if you notice here, I always go for cash flow before cash on hand because cash flow is not very invasive. People will tell you that all day. So I pace and then I lead. And I lead by getting the cash on hand. If you go right for cash on hand, it's kind of like, whoa. So we sort of stair step into that. So we add up cash on hand, credit, cash flow. And then essentially what we do is we determine the largest payment plan they can ethically do, right? So let's say the prospect has 10K cash on hand, 2K credit, and this should say 3K cash flow, okay? So overall, they have 12K in resources now, and then they have 3K coming in every 30 days. So then what we say, like at this point, if I know these resources, I know that they can do it. It's not a logistical objection. It's it's just getting them past some like resistance and some fear, okay? So at this point, what I'll say is, as a salesperson, I'll say, gotcha, and you really want to do this, right? This language pattern is key because what we don't want to do is get all their financial resources and then we're like, okay, well, put down 6K right now. Like it's a little bit too much, right? So we want to go back to, do you really want to do this? And they're going to be like, yeah, I really want to do it. That's good because you're getting them moving forward in your direction there. So a lot of times they'll be like, dude, 100%, right? And then you say, this is the salesperson. Okay, because look, I don't think the best thing for you is to drop 12K right now and spend literally all of your savings to go into credit card debt. But I also, based on what you told me earlier, that the business is the most important thing in your life. And if you don't do something, you're gonna have to go back to corporate within the next 6 to 12 months. Because of that, I also don't think the best thing for you is to do nothing. And besides, for you, it's what? 2 clients at 6K to break even, right? So, that's basically your downside, and your upside, if you come in, you do the work, you raise your hand when you need help, is that we hit 30K a month in profit, which is the number you want to hit and the number you're really wanting here. So because of that, what I'd be willing to do for you is let you in for a third down, so 4K right now. And then that way you can come in, build out your offer, build out your lead gen, close a few clients, and then that way you can bankroll the rest of the payments. So when that second and third payment comes around 30, 60 days down the road, those payments are basically at that point just an afterthought. Is that fair? So if that's something I'm willing to do for you, is that something you're willing to move forward with right now? And then let's say they say, yep. Okay, you sure? Yep. Ready to get started on some homework? Yep. What's your billing address? And that's the close, right? Billing address, right into payment details. So what did I do here? So this one's pretty good. So I said, look, I don't think the best thing for you is to drop 12K right now and spend all your savings and go into credit card debt. I also don't think the best thing for you is to do nothing. I use that, man, I've probably said that one thousands of times. And I love that because it's just such a preeminent language there. It's just such a good way to say, to really communicate to the prospect that you're holding their best interests at heart. And then I'm reminding them of things they told me earlier on the call and the reason why doing this now is important, right? And then I say, and besides, for you, what is it? 2 clients at 6K, you break even, right? So essentially what I'm gonna do is, so I say that preeminent language pattern, I don't think the best thing for you is to plop it on a credit card, just go 12K in the red. I also don't think, based on everything you told me, this and this, best thing for you is to do nothing. And besides, it's what? And then I give the downside and upside. So this is a really, really good way to do it because you're reminding them how easy it is to ROI on the investment. Now, obviously, if you don't do a financial ROI type of offer, then you would want to omit this part. But for a lot of you guys, you're teaching people how to get clients, you're maybe teaching people how to invest their money, I don't know. But this upside downside thing is huge, right? And I frame the downside is this amount of clients to just break even. Dude, it's just 2 clients to break even, right? That's your downside. Your upside is you come in, you do what we say, you do the work, you do this, you do that. We could potentially be hitting 30K a month profit, no problem. We've helped tons of people do that. We've done it ourselves, and if you follow the process, we can help you do it too, right? So I'm framing the upside or the downside and then the upside. But the downside is just removing the risk of break even, okay? And then I'm saying, okay, well, because of that, what I'd be willing to do for you, and then you see how I present the payment plan here, is let you in for a third down. That way, you can build out your offer, do lead gen, close some clients, and then you can bankroll the rest of the payments. So I future pace into the work we're gonna be doing and how that's gonna help them bankroll the rest of the payments. And I end by saying, so those are basically an afterthought, is that fair, right? And is that fair sets the bar pretty low. I'm not saying, do you wanna do that? I'm saying, is that fair? It's kind of hard to say, oh, that's not fair. So you see how this is so much different from saying, well, buddy, we could split it up into 3 payments. I mean, that's just not compelling at all. This way, it seems like I'm doing a huge favor for them, right? And you get the future pacing language. Also at this point, we've already established that this is a payment plan that for sure he or she can do, especially based on 3K cash flow, 10K cash on hand, 2K credit, like that's no problem. I could even probably went for the 2Pay here, but let's just say I do want to do the 3Pay. So I know that they can do it. There's no excuse. So any resistance at this point, I'm like, hey, what's really going on? Because you can definitely do this. You said you really wanted to do it, but now, given an opportunity to do it, we're not, we're hitting some resistance here and we're not moving forward. So just be honest with me, what's really going on? So now we can just have an honest conversation if we get resistance to this point. But you see how instead of just giving the payment plan out right from the beginning, we did a process to where now there's so much consistency and we're going so hard in one direction that it's gonna be hard for them to come back the other way, okay? And then we end up by saying, if that's something I'm willing to do for you, is that something you're willing to do right now? So again, this whole thing is framed not as well, what if we do a 3Pay? To where it's almost like a sleazy downsell type of thing. Now it's a trade. Hey, if I'm willing to do that for you, are you willing to make a decision now? That's how I get that commitment now, because I'm making them a deal. At least it's framed that way. And then I confirm it. They say, yep, sure, yep. Ready to get started on some homework? They always say, yep. What's your billing address? So that's just a smooth kind of yes ladder right into the sale. And billing address is usually a little bit easier than a card because they'll just start kind of reciting off the address. So that's it for this training, guys. If you guys want this document that I've been reading off of during this video, comment your phone number below. Okay, comment your phone number below. My assistant will reach out within 24 to 48 hours to not only give you this document, but at the same time, if you want it, we can give you our 7-Figure Selling Secrets sales course, 30 plus hours of content on training closers, training setters, financial objections, uncertainty-based objections, spouse objections, really all of that stuff, and you can dig in, have a great time with that. I've had people tell me that's more valuable than the last 2K sales course that they bought, and it's free. I've had whole sales teams put their entire sales team through it of 30 people. People really enjoy that. There's tons of more videos like this. So if you enjoyed this video, you'll like that too. But regardless, comment your phone number below, and we'll hit you up and make sure you get access to this document. That's all I got, guys. Peace.